Tehran has claimed it has enough weapons to wipe out the U.S. base on the island of Diego Garcia. Theoretically, Iran has enough weapons to destroy the strategic facility itself and kill nearly 4,000 U.S. soldiers. Iran has issued a chilling warning that a key U.S. military base and thousands of American service members could be destroyed if U.S. President Donald Trump orders a strike on Tehran. The DIFRA press agency, run by the Iranian Armed Forces, said on Wednesday that Iran definitely has enough weapons to attack the remote Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia, where the U.S. has recently increased its military presence. The report directly threatens U.S. Air Force and Navy assets, saying the 4,000 U.S. troops stationed there would be at risk of total annihilation if America were to attack Iran. While official estimates indicate that the base on Diego Garcia, the largest of the Chagos Islands, is usually home to 400 military personnel and 2,000 civilian contractors, Iran insists that there are significantly more U.S. troops there. The Danish government has held consultations with the Foreign Policy Committee on the 25th aid package for Ukraine, worth 6.7 billion Danish kroner, almost $970 million. This is stated in a statement by the Danish Ministry of Defense. This will be the 25th aid package for Ukraine from Denmark. Key elements of the package are air defense, artillery, and financial support for the Ukrainian Air Force. The security situation is changing rapidly. Therefore, it is very important that Denmark continues its large-scale support for Ukraine. With the 25th aid package, we emphasize our support for Ukraine in both the short and long term, said Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen. Read also, the Coalition of the Willing decided that at least one European leader must resume talks with Russia. Stubb. For his part, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen noted that the new package will strengthen Ukraine's combat power. Ukraine's security is crucial for the future of all of Europe. I hope that our assistance will inspire other allies to provide even greater support. CZ Recithas of Zelensky made an optimistic statement. According to him, this would be a serious step towards ending the war, although it would not mean its final end. A ceasefire is the biggest step towards ending the war, but not its end. Unfortunately, we are dealing with the Russians, Zelensky said. He stressed that a complete cessation of hostilities would give Ukraine time and space to strengthen security guarantees that would make it impossible to return to the hot phase of the conflict. This would also, in his opinion, open the way to real diplomacy. Zelensky also said that the priority for Ukraine during the negotiations is a strong army. This is their line. No reductions in the number of our army. To be honest, we will do everything to leave the army in the state in terms of numbers that it has today. A large army, which is 3 times larger than it was at the beginning of the war. An army that can only be modernized. These are the changes that can occur after the end of the war, Zelensky said. Ukraine does not recognize the occupied territories as Russian, Zelensky. He also added that another red line is the recognition of the occupied territories as Russian. In any case, these are temporarily occupied territories. A just peace is when all the territories are returned. But if it is possible to find a compromise so that the return of these territories takes place over time through diplomatic means, I think that for some territories, this will probably be the only way, because there cannot be so much war. Therefore, we will do everything to ensure that the restoration of the territorial integrity of Ukraine takes place for us. These are important things, Zelensky added. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said that billionaire Elon Musk will remain an advisor to Donald Trump even after his term in the administration ends in 130 days. Source: according to European Truth, Vance said this in an interview with Fox News. Details: Vance called media reports that Trump allegedly told members of his inner circle that Musk would allegedly end his work in his administration in the near future a total fake. He noted that the American billionaire agreed to work for 6 months to reduce the incredibly agile bureaucracy that hinders the expression of the will of the American people and is costly. But of course, he will continue to remain an advisor. And by the way, the work of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, ED, is not even close to being done. Elon's work is not even close to being done, the U.S. Vice President added. Oil prices continue to fall and have accelerated their decline to about 7% on news of the introduction of new U.S. trade tariffs. This is evidenced by trading data on the London ICE exchange. Thus, the price of a barrel of Brent oil fell below $70 as of 4 p.m. on April 3rd. This price was last recorded on March 19th. In addition, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies decided to accelerate the increase in oil production. Let us remind you, U.S. President Donald Trump announced the introduction of reciprocal tariffs in response to the actions of other countries of the world. Trump introduced a 10% tariff on imports from all countries of the world. The introduction of new tariffs by the Donald Trump administration has hit American assets hard. Bloomberg writes about this. Futures on U.S. stock indexes fell by more than 4%. The dollar fell, and the yield on 10-year Treasury bonds reached its lowest level since October. In contrast, other economies were less affected. The Stoxx Europe 600 index lost 1.9%, and the euro rose by 2.2% against the dollar. The Japanese yen strengthened by 1.9%. Overall, the dollar experienced its worst day in 2 years, as investors brace for negative economic consequences. National Australia Bank Ltd expert Ray Attrill explained that the intensification of concerns about U.S. economic growth due to new tariffs and the fall in stocks means that the dollar is losing its traditional support as a reserve currency. The U.S. stock market was already unstable, but now the situation has worsened. The S&P 500 has lost 3.6% year-to-date, while the Nasdaq 100 has lost 7%. U.S. tech giants have also suffered losses. In contrast, the German DAX has gained 10% in 2025. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, at a joint briefing with the NATO Secretary General before the start of the meeting of the alliance's ministers, stated that Washington does not question the issue of its membership in NATO. He also recalled that the U.S. recently lost 4 soldiers who died during exercises in Lithuania. This reminds us that the U.S. is in NATO, he concluded. However, for NATO with the U.S. in its composition to exist successfully, Marco Rubio expects changes from other members of the alliance, in particular, an increase in their military budgets. He emphasized that he considers such mutually beneficial exchange between allies to be normal. We need NATO to become more viable. The only way for the alliance to become stronger and more viable is by strengthening defense capabilities. We prioritize defense, and we expect the same, he explained. French President Emmanuel Macron has urged companies to halt investment in the United States after President Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs. This was reported by Bloomberg, according to European Truth. Speaking to representatives of industries that will be hit by Trump's tariffs, Macron said it made no sense for companies to invest there while the United States was attacking Europe. What signal are we sending when big European players who invest billions in the American economy are simultaneously attacking us? We must have collective solidarity, he said. According to The Guardian, Macron also stressed that he agreed with EU leaders that nothing can be ruled out in response to Trump's actions, as all tools are on the table. Among the available tools, he pointed to potential intervention in the field of digital services, where the United States benefits enormously from Europe. American and European markets are reeling from the shock of new U.S. trade tariffs and fear an economic crisis. However, President Donald Trump remains optimistic about the impact of the tariffs. This is according to Trump's statement on his social network, Truth Social. Trump believes that the new tariffs he has imposed on all imports to America will benefit the U.S. economy and contribute to its prosperity. The operation is complete. The patient is alive, recovering. The prognosis is that the patient will be much stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever. Let's make America great again, wrote the U.S. president. Meanwhile, Trump's tariffs have already collapsed world markets, raising gold to a record high. Stock indexes fell sharply on April 3rd, and safe assets such as reliable bonds and gold rose in price. Investors fear that the new U.S. tariffs will escalate a trade war that threatens a global recession. In the half-day after the tariffs were announced, S&P 500 and NASDAQ futures on Wall Street fell 3.4% and 3.9% respectively, and the U.S. dollar lost 2% of its value. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new exciting news from around the world. Like and good luck.